Hi everyone, it's JoJo from Mojo Jojo Plants, and today I wanted to come on and give a step-by-step instructions on how to print my new updated printables over for free download on my website. I recently updated these Happy Planner Value Pack sticker list, and the way that you print them now is different than how they used to be. I hope it's easier. But I did just want to come on because I know there are some visual learners. I know I learn better visually, even just having it explained to me, like, you know, with talking is a lot more helpful sometimes than reading instructions. So I wanted to just make a really quick video on some just like tips and tricks and things to do before you even print these out. I will say when you download these on my website, it will also come with another download of printing instructions. So that way, if you're a person that just likes to read instructions, those are there for you. I just wanted to make this super easy, hopefully. And hopefully this is just overall a better way to print them out than it was before. So this list is still available in Classic, Big, Mini, and Skinny Classic, and it's also available in the black version. I just have all the color versions because I love the color version, and it's in rainbow now, which I absolutely love, and I think it just looks really pretty. Anyway, so we're gonna go over how to print these things and then even how to cut them because they are a little bit different to cut than they were in the past. So let's go over this. And if you've downloaded my my daily sheets, if you've gotten my daily sheets, they're basically that same way as the daily sheet. So there's that as well. I will say the easiest one to use is the big one because there's no cutting involved for this one. This one's definitely the easiest. All you have to do is print it and then you can punch it and it's ready to go. And then I think this one also is probably going to be the easiest one to get if you're wanting to print directly on your Happy Planner paper and resize it down. You know, like if you're wanting to do that. So this one's probably the file that you would want to get to do that. I think you size it. I think you change the size to 62% for a Classic. I can't 100% remember, but I think you could do that. And that's if you're printing directly on Classic sized paper. So that's for that. I think it's 62. Don't quote me on that. Maybe Google it. I don't remember. I haven't done it in such a long time that I don't even remember. So, but that one would be the one that you would want to do that with. All right, so we're going to start with the Classic one because I think this one is probably the most specific one on how to print this one. It's fairly easy, like once you do it. It's just one of those things where there were some bumps and, you know, I had to kind of figure it out. And that's why, again, these are free because I'm like, they might not print completely perfectly on everybody's printer. They work great on mine, but I'll give you a couple of tips and things that you can check for to make sure, you know, that it prints as best as it can. So my first tip to you is to test print. Don't just go in and, you know, click print all and have it just print. I want you to test print first to make sure, you know, they come out the right direction, they're aligned right, all that good stuff. So I just suggest only working with pages 1 and 2 for now to just make sure you've got it. And then after that, you can go in and do the rest. That's tip number 1. Tip 2 is make sure you know your printer and how your printer prints. And the reason why I say that is because everybody's printer prints differently. You know, there's the back loading where you put the paper at the back of the printer. There's the printers that have the paper down at the bottom. You open a drawer and you put it in. So there's just different ways printers work, and I'm sure there's a bunch of other ways. But you know, I only have my printer, so I literally can only test this out on one printer. I am using an HP OfficeJet 5258. I don't know if the number means anything. But I'm using an HP, so some of the directions I might give of like when you're in your printing dialog on your computer might be specific to HP. So just kind of keep that in mind. You might have to adjust for whatever brand your printer is. So knowing your printer, you're going to want to make sure you know which way your paper comes out once it's printed, like which direction is your paper printing after your printer is done printing a piece of paper. And the reason why I tell you that is because in my printer, mine comes out upside down. So I walk over to my printer this way, I grab it, and then I have to flip it around to look at it. My printer prints upside down and it comes out of this way. Now I had another printer in the past that came out this way and it, you know, was the correct way. So that's something to note. You want to make sure you know which direction your paper is coming out of your printer because it might affect how you load that paper back in to have it print on the back. And again, if you have a back loading printer, chances are it doesn't flip the paper, meaning in the machine, it doesn't flip it around when you're trying to print on the back side. If you have a back loader, because usually you just enter it like this and then it slides down and it'll print. And sometimes, you know, you can enter like this and it's upside down, whatever that is. So if that's the case, if you have a back loading printer and it does not flip your paper for you if you're printing on both sides, you want to make sure that you, and I think those are the printers that won't give you the option to print on both sides. Don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that might be the case. So if you put your paper in, say I have my first page printout and it comes out upside down and I want it to print on the back. Because I know it comes out upside down, I'm going to want to keep it up, or I'm going to put it upside down, you know, and flip it over so it's the blank side. And then that way when it prints again, it'll still come out upside down. And then it'll be, you know, the correct direction once I flip my pages. So that is for like maybe you have a back loader and it doesn't flip the paper. Now my printer flips the paper. So I insert my paper at the bottom of my printer in a little tray. Again, my paper comes out this way. So what I end up having to do is I have to insert my paper this way in the tray. So I insert it right side up because what happens is it goes through the printer. And let me just do this with one because I know it's super confusing. And then when it goes through the printer, it pulls it around and then flips it and then comes out again upside down. So that way when I pull it out, it's the correct way. So anyway, all that to say, just make sure you know the directions and how to insert your paper into your printer because it might be different than how mine is. And you're going to need that for the classic size version. So when you're doing the classic size version, usually you can just click the button, you know, that says print both sides, and the printer will set the paper back in for you and print it on both sides. I will say for the other three, that does work for those ones, but for whatever reason, it does not work with the classic size. So the best way to print this is to print the odd pages first. So you're going to want to print pages 1, 3, 5, 7, and then because we have a different number for the regular sticker books, you're going to print page 8 because nothing goes on the back of page 8. So you're going to print 1, 3, 5, 7, and 8 all in one go. You can just have the printer, you know, just go out, print those. Then you're going to pull all of those pages out, and then you're going to take out pages 8 and pages 7 because there's nothing on the backs of those, so you can set those aside. And then you'll end up putting back in pages 1, 3, and 5, so that way you can print page 2, page 4, and page 6. That is the best way to do it. That's the best way to make sure it is aligned. Now, I will say another thing you need to make sure before you print anything, you need to make sure on the printing dialog, and I will have a little picture pop up here, but on the printing dialog, you need to make sure it says actual size. Sometimes by default, it'll click fit to paper. You do not want that. You want to click actual size, so that way it prints the size that I actually made this, which is classic Happy Planner size as far as where the tick marks are for when you cut it later. So you do really want to make sure that you have actual size clicked before you do anything, and that goes for all of these files. Make sure you have actual size. Otherwise, they're just going to end up a little bit smaller, which isn't the worst thing. You can definitely still use them if they're a little bit smaller and maybe you like it to be just a tiny bit smaller. That's totally fine, but if you want it to be true to size, make sure you click that actual size button before you print anything. So that's how you print the classic. Either option, the black or the color. I don't know why, but that's the best way to make sure they're completely aligned. I did try it. I did try to have my printer, you know, print both sides for me. And for some reason, it just puts the margins like completely off on the second side, and then it's not aligned. The best way to tell that it's aligned before you even cut it too, is you can put your finger on this little, what is this called? Like tick cut line mark, and then you can hold it up on the light, and then if you see like the shadowing under your paper or whatever you're using is just under that, then you should be good. You won't cut anything off. So anyway, so that is how to print a classic. I know that's a little bit complicated, but But I mean, I feel like the way it was before was even more complicated, because regardless, you had to stick the pages back into the printer, you know, to print the giant square on all the pages so that way you could cut it. So you just have to insert them. I will say, when you insert pages 1, 3, and 5, only do one at a time. So you can insert all 3 of them at a time, but you got to make sure you remember what order you have them, because, you know, you want your printer to pull the right sheet. So make sure. So what I would do is I would go, you know, select print, and then I would say print page 2. That way I know that page prints on page 1. And then I would go back in, and then I would go print page 4, and then that would print on page 3. And then I would go in and do page 6, and then blah, blah. So that's how I would do it, because I've definitely made the dumb move of just clicking like 2, 4, 6, and then my printer sometimes likes to start backwards, and so it ended up printing page 2 on the back of 6, and you know, and then they end up wrong. So just to make sure that you don't have any errors, you know, just print one at a time. It just makes it a lot easier. The good news is the only page that you'll have to reprint when I update these sheets is the last page, because this page is going to take a little while to fill up. Obviously, there's only one side. There's, you know, 2 sides to it. So next time that this list updates, you'll really only have to print this one and then maybe this one, because if these update at all, these are usually the ones that get updated. So those are all the only ones. So you just have to do, you know, that work for the first time you print it, and that's it. Okay, so that's how you do the classic. Obviously, if you have any questions, let me know down below. But, you know, just test print first. It just makes it a lot easier, and then you don't have to worry about wasting paper. I do use a thicker paper too, just because I like how it feels, and I like it to be a little bit more sturdy. I will link it down in the description below. It's from Amazon. I don't remember what weight it is, but I'll link it down below and you can check it out there. Okay, now these ones are a little bit easier, because for whatever reason it works really well, and this works well on my printer. Again, test print first. Don't just like go for it. Test print first, because what works on my printer, again, might not work 100% on your printer. So just, you know, double check and just test print regardless. Test print. But it works really well on my printer to do the print both sides. Now, this could be something that is different on everybody's printer as well. So you still want to make sure it's actual size for all 3 of these sizes. And if you're going to print on both sides, sometimes another option will pop up, which I'll have the little picture come up again, and it'll say cut on short side or cut on long side. I had to test it out, because I honestly, like, all this time I did not know what that meant, and I had to figure it out, because I was like, well, obviously I need to figure this out. And I found out that it is a lot better to do the cut on long edge for anything that's vertical. And that just means, you know, and make sure that it prints the back side the correct way, the same way as your front side. Because if you click short side, the way it flips it is it'll be on the wrong side, and then you'll have an upside down page on the other one. So on the vertical pages, you want to click flip on long side, and that goes for the big and for the skinny classic. And then for this mini, you want to click on short side. Okay, so on short side just for the mini, and then on long side for the big and the skinny classic. So if you have that option, great. If you don't, you might need to figure out what that option might mean. Or your printer might not even give you that option. I'm not 100% sure. That also might mean you might have to flip your pages a certain way, you know, in your printer when you're putting them back in. Or it just might not give you the option at all if your printer doesn't even give you the option to print on both sides. So you can do it that way, or again, you can follow the same directions as the classic. You just have to adjust the pages. You know, I think you could still do, for pretty much all of them, basically just print the odd pages first, and then go back in, reinsert your pages, and then print the even pages. And the big one only has prints on 3 pages of paper. So, you know, you're only printing 1 and 3 first, and then, or no, you're printing basically all of them. Print all of them, because you have to put these 2 back in. But anyway, so those are the instructions. It's pretty simple. Obviously, if you have any questions, please let me know and I'll try my best to help you, but I can only do so much when I have one printer, and I just wanted to make a quick video of just like the tips of how to make sure these are lining up and all that good stuff. So real quick, let's cut these because they are a little bit different than before. And of course, I'll fast forward through some of this because you don't want to sit here. It takes me a while to cut. Again, the nice thing is you do not have to cut the big size, so you literally can just go in, make sure they're all lined up. I don't know if I can punch this many because these are thick papers, but you slide it in, wow, and then you can punch, and then it gives you plenty of space on both sides, so that way nothing's cut out. All right, so that's the big version. You don't have to do any cutting. Let's take a look at the classic size. I will say my favorite tool ever in my craft room is my paper trimmer. It just makes life 10 billion times easier. I will leave a link to it down on the description below because paper trimmers are king. If you don't have a paper trimmer, I would suggest taking a ruler and drawing, you know, a line from the line to line so that way you have a full line to cut down. That might make it a little bit easier. But I'm just going to go in, and I suggest going in a square. I think it just makes it a lot easier. You can cut multiple pages together, but I feel like that's when I make more errors. So I'd rather just take my time. Because again, these pages, these beginning pages, you shouldn't have to print again. It's more of like a one and done. All right, so here's page 1. There we go. Page 1. So I'm going to fast forward, and then I'm going to cut the rest of the classic. Alrighty, so there we go. My pages are all cut and ready to go in my book. So I'm just going to punch them. I'm going to take 2 pages at a time just because this cardstock is so thick that it's not the easiest to punch multiple pages at a time. Obviously, if you're using, you know, lighter stock, then punching multiple pages at a time won't be too bad. All right, there we go. So here is the classic size, all ready to go in my planner. So that way I have my lists. Now let's do the next size, and we're gonna go in and do the mini. So the mini is set up. It's kind of confusing, but I mean, you don't have to worry about anything because once they're cut, it'll make a lot more sense. So you're going to go in, and you have 2 pages now. I was able to fit 2 pages on these. So you're going to go in, and again, I just go in a square because it just makes life a lot easier. And you want to make sure you're not accidentally like cutting off anything you might need later. So I'm just going to go in a square and just simply cut these. Cut them down. You're going to go in a square, and then you got to go down the center. That way we can separate our pages. Just like so. So this gave you, whoops, this gave you page 1, and then page 2. Then you have page 3 and page 4. Okie dokie. Page 3 and page 4. So then you'll keep those together, and then I'm just going to cut the rest of those really quick. All right, there we go. All my pages for my mini punched. All right, so we have 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then 7, 8, and then the last page. Okie dokie. So there we go for the mini, and then the last one we have to cut together is the Skinny Classic, and this is basically the exact same. The only thing that's different is there's not like a middle piece to cut out, but you do have to cut down the middle. There's just like not, you don't get like an extra little snippet from the middle. So we'll just cut this one real quick, and this one's 4 pages. Alrighty, Skinny Classic, ready to go. Obviously it turns into more pages once you actually have them cut, but you're only printing on 4 pages, if that makes sense. Alright, and then we have all of our pages ready to go in our planners. There we go. Pretty simple once you get there. So to recap, just so that way it's out there, it's been said. Just to recap, step 1, test print. Like, don't just, you know, before you print the whole thing, do a test print. Make sure your printer is set to actual size. Don't use the you know, fit to page size. They will end up a little bit smaller. Again, if that's something you don't care about and you're okay with it being a little bit smaller, that's totally fine. Just make sure, you know, if that's what you're wanting. If not, make sure to click actual size. Classic has to be, it's better if you print each individual page. If you print 1, 3, 5, 7, and 8 by themselves and then go back in and print the backs on them, it's just going to align a lot better and make that a lot easier. For the verticals, which are the big and the Skinny Classic, if you decide to have the printer flip it for you, make sure that you have flip on long edge selected. And then for the mini one, make sure you have flip on short edge selected. And then just make sure you know how your printer works before you start printing. But hopefully this is helpful for you guys, and hopefully just gives you a little bit clearer instruction on how to print these printables. And I'm so glad that I could provide them for you, and I hope that you love the new layout of them. So that is it, you guys. I so hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to give a thumbs up and subscribe, and I hope I'll see you in my next one. Bye!